I'm Lynette Zang, CEO and founder of Zang Enterprises. I've been studying currencies and currency life cycles since 1987, and I had Robin Butler ask about retirement plans. And I think that's really critical for you to know, and so I'm going to talk to you about that. But go ahead and smash that like button. Go ahead and subscribe so that we can send this information out to as many people as you want to, because I'm also going to talk more about the strategy. So let's just begin. Because if you don't hold it, you don't own it, regardless of what your assumptions are. I don't know where to turn or what to do. His $763,094 retirement fund is in limbo. We've also had these issues around several of the fintech companies as well. It's the bottom line. If it is a contract, you're running counterparty risk. Gold and silver, well, in your possession, does not run any counterparty risk. It's the reality. If you don't hold it, you don't own it, especially as more and more pension IRAs, mutual funds, ETFs are positioning into illiquid assets. That means that they cannot liquidate or sell these assets without a major dislocation in price, because there really isn't a regular market for them. So what if a whole bunch of people ask for their money at the same time? They're not going to be able to do it. And that share is growing. This is between 2017 and 2023, and you can see how much growth in illiquid assets in retirement funds there are. That's a problem. These assets are opaque and they are not sellable. So that can create a problem, because what do you say? Well, I want it. And they go, too bad, so sad, not going to happen. We address this with the sound money strategy. I too once had a SEP IRA. And I know a lot of people do that because then you don't have to pay taxes on it currently. But it is also good for the government to know how much and when and how they're going to tax you on that wealth held inside of the system. So they can inflate it away just by printing. They can inflate it away, or they can do what they've talked about doing as a one-off event, so that if you don't think where they're going to tax you like 11.3% of whatever you're holding in your retirement plans, but if they can convince you that they're only doing it one time, you don't change your behavior. I suggest you change your behavior before any of that happens, as long as you can. In some cases, you can. If you've got a 403B, I'm sorry, there's not anything you can do other than properly diversify outside of your IRA, which you can certainly do. I want to show you and tell you that the sound money strategy is built in layers depending upon what you're trying to accomplish. Your first line of defense, and so if I were building a retirement portfolio, this would totally go into this as well. Your first line of defense is cash, because that's the thing that's most recognizable, even though you're losing money. And I look at 3 to 12 months worth of cash outside of the banking system, because I know a lot of you, when you've tried to wire funds or take out a lump sum, the bank is giving you a hard time, huh? Well, that's because it's not really your money. It's really their money that you've loaned to them. The second part of the strategy, and this is critical because what we need to do in retirement is sustain your current standard of living. So that's what this next part is about. And I go up to 10 years. You can do it for any length of time that you want to. And I'm going to show you do this with barterable gold and barterable silver. Things like fractional pieces, right? You see a variety of sizes. Then we're going to take a look at opportunity positioning. I mean, when I first became a stockbroker, nobody ever talked about what would happen if you used up your principal. Because back then you were getting 8% on a 10-year treasury. And so if you had $1 million in the bank, well, quite honestly, $80,000 a year was ample at that time, back in the early 80s, to live. Now you're hand to mouth and it's a problem. But back then you could. So what do they talk about now? In a traditional account where you have fiat money assets, right? They say, well, oh, you have enough money to last you till you're 83. Well, what happens after 83? You still have to live, hopefully, and you want to have a nice life. So we address that issue, and we position you into assets that you cannot outlive. Now, I want you to understand that this whole sound money strategy is based upon the currency life cycle and the fact that we're at the end of it. It's critically important. But this first top of the pyramid is about sustaining your standard of living throughout your lifetime. Then the next part of it is based on your desire to leave a legacy. This happens to be important to me. It may or may not be important to you, but you know what? There is gold and then there's gold. So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish that directs us where we're supposed to go. And finally, we want to expand your income producing wealth base so that you cannot outlive it. Additionally, neither can your heirs. Now, I'm not saying that your heirs couldn't make bad choices, because what do they say? It takes a lifetime to build a legacy and one generation to destroy it. So hopefully the generation that you're leaving it to is educated and understands the importance of what you've built, both in a sound money strategy and foundation, as well as in your income and their future income. So, like I said, one of the real keys in here is to sustain a reasonable standard of living. And we can look at what happened with both gold and silver over the years, because that's all definitely part of it. Average income 1913 was $800. In 1971, it was $10,500. And then we translate that into gold and silver based on the spot market during those periods of time. So if you did not get a raise at all, but you were just paid in the same amount of gold and silver, in terms of gold, your annual income would be $665,000, certainly sustaining your standard of living and expanding that. But even in ounces of silver, you were still paid $214,351.97, which is far greater than the average income today, which is $59,228. Do you see what I'm talking about here? So the fiat money, this stuff has inflation baked into it. That's why when they talk about fiat money assets, which also has lots and lots and lots of fees built into it that you can't see, that's why they talk about you outliving it. I'm not talking about that, because no matter what happens, no matter how old you get, you still have to eat. And so this is the food basket, where $20 or a $20 gold certificate, a bill, bought you a basket. What does it buy you today? You can see that. And even in terms of food, which is an absolute necessity, you look at that food basket and it's up over 2,300%. Spot silver during that same period of time up over 3,000%. So it definitely sustains your ability to buy the same thing. Spot gold up almost 13,000%. So it maintains it, but also enables you to expand it. That's why in the barterable realm, and then going into the other parts of the strategy, it's different kinds of gold and it's different kinds of silver to meet what you need to do, because clearly spot silver maintains it, spot gold expands it, and neither one of those reflect the true fundamental value, which is what happens when inflation runs so hot and they restructure the currency. Together, we can make a positive difference. Let's come together. Let's have this quiet, very peaceful movement by converting this garbage fiat into sound money. Secure your retirement, secure your future, secure your family's future, and your freedoms and your choices. Get it done. And until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.